Welcome back to Jumpstart Code. In the previous video, we built this simple survey form, but it's really ugly right now. So we want to look at how to use CSS to add styling to this form and make it look a lot better. I really like to work on one thing at a time. I like to get all my components on my HTML first, and then I can focus my attention on how to style it. So I'm going to make a new file here, and I'm going to save as styles.css. Right? I am now going to, first of all, just add a background color. So background color, and there's a lot of ways to use colors. Just for right now, I'm just going to use color names. It just makes things a lot easier. So let's save. When you have multiple files, make sure you save them all. And I have this open in live server. So look, no change. That's because I have to connect this file to my HTML. So here at the top, we need a link. And we need to say href equals styles.css. rel equals style sheet. Save all, and we have background color. Great. All right, let's use a different font family here. So if I want to change the font family for everything on the page, I can put that in the body, font family, and we're going to use cursive. There are a lot of ways to deal with fonts, even Google fonts, but I'm just keeping this very simple right now. And you'll see that all changed, right? This header, if I want to center this header, this my survey, so let's go look at the page. We have to select this element. So it's an H1 element. So I could go over here and apply styling to H1, and I can say text align center. And that's done. All right. Now, these labels here, I want to make them the same size, make this line up. And in order to make these boxes line up, what I need to do is control the width of these labels. Now, labels are typically an inline item, but in order to control the size of my label, I need to make them inline block. So I can say label, and I'm going to say display as inline block, and I can give my labels a width, and I'm going to use, well, I'm going to put like 30 pixels to start, just to see what's going on. And so my label there, inline block, let's make this a little bigger. Let's make this 50. All right, you see it moved over a little bit, right? So sometimes a better way to do this is by using a unit called EM, which is basically a percentage, or it's relative to the size of the current font. So if I put in here, for example, 5EM, right? So do you see my labels have now moved over here? If I change my text alignment to right aligned, all right, but now the problem is I also have labels down here, and this formatting is being applied to all my labels. I really just want these two at the top. So how can I target them separately? I can apply a class to them in order to target them separately. So I go back to my HTML. So these two labels at the top, I'm going to put class equals, I'm just going to call it 1 for right now. It's not a particularly good class name, but right, so these two labels have been targeted or have a class that allows me to target them separately. So over here in the styles, I'm going to say label dot 1 because you use the dot notation to represent a class. So if I save and come back, let's make sure we save all. And you see, only those labels moved over, and it did not impact these down at the bottom. So you always have to think about how to target only what it is that you want to focus on. All right, something else we can do is work on these input boxes and give them a little margin and a little padding. So that can always help a lot. So my input elements, I'm going to give a margin 10 pixels. Let's see what changes. So margin is outside of the element. So you see how they moved apart a little bit. Now when I type in here, you see there's no space kind of around the thing that I'm typing. If I want to add a little space in there, I'll add some padding. Maybe 5 pixels of padding. And now you see there's some space inside of the element. So that's again something that you can control. All right, suppose I want to make these buttons look pretty. So these buttons down here are also input elements. And so that padding apply to that, but I want to only target these two input elements, which are submit and reset. So I have to use something a little special because again I have lots of input elements on here, but I want just these. So here's the way I can target this, and I'm just going to do one to start and see if it works, and then we'll do the other one. So this is a very specific type of CSS selector. If I say input and in square brackets type equals submit, and let's say that we change the width of these buttons to 100 pixels. So let's see what changes. All right, so do you see down here we did make a change to that one button. Okay, so let's focus on the one and then we'll apply it to the other one as well. So let's do a few things. Let's give it a background color of gray. And if I do that, you'll see I won't be able to see my text very well. So we're going to change the text color. So that's going to be the color to white. Save all. Right? See, step by step we're changing this. Maybe I want the font to be a little bigger. Font size, we'll say 1.2 EM. So that's like 20% bigger than the standard font. Right? You see how that's a little bigger? You could change that if you wanted to. If I want to round the corners on my button, that is border radius. Let's say 10 pixels. You can always sort of play with these numbers to get what you want. Right? You see there? I've got the little rounded corners on there now. And you'll see right now, you see I've got just the arrow on there. If I want to change the cursor so that it looks like the pointer, then I can change the cursor to a pointer. When it comes to CSS, you really should add one thing at a time. All right, you see the difference? This one has the little hand. This one still has the arrow. So also this is nice to style one of them to make sure what I want to see the difference in what's going on. All right, so if I want to apply that to both of these, then what I'm going to do is copy this. I'm going to put a comma. I want to apply the same styling to the reset button as well. Okay, save all, and look at that. We've got both of these buttons looking a lot nicer. If I want to, you know, it's nice sometimes when you hover over a button, you see a color change that tells you that it's active or you can click on it. So I'm going to do one more thing here. Input type equals submit. And I'm going to use what's called a pseudo class, which is hover. So when you hover over this button, I want to change the background color to, let's see, that's not exactly the color that I want. I've got an RGB over here that I'm going to use. So RGB 255, 0. This is just a color that I played around with beforehand. There you go. It's kind of this pink color. So I save all. And look, when I hover over the button, isn't that cool? So it only applies to this one right now. So if I want to make it apply to both, then I'll copy this, put a comma, so I can apply the same styling to two different selectors. I'll save all, and there we go, right? So if I reset this form, everything is clear. I can put in a name here, or if I don't put in a name, remember, it says you have to fill out something there. I can put in a name, I can put in an age, I can select that, select a couple of these things, click, nothing's happening because I don't have anything on the back end, but it does show that the form submitted. And if I start doing something on here, you know, and then I go, oh, wait, I want to reset this whole thing. Then if I click the reset button, it clears the page out completely. So that shows you how if you focus first on building your form, getting all the elements on there, use indenting and use some extra spacing in here to make it easier for your eye to kind of follow the sections of what's going on. And then work on your styling, work on it kind of one thing at a time. Figure out what you need to target. Sometimes you might have to add a class in order to target differently. And in this case, I can say label.1, or if I just do .1, this will work exactly the same way. In this case, the class is being applied to two labels, but a class could be applied to 2 or 3 elements that are not the same type of element. So all you have to do to specify a class is dot and the class name. And again, what we did over here, we applied that class to the elements that I wanted it to be associated with. So HTML is a lot of fun to, you know, if I want to change the color of the text in the H1, so I can say color, maybe I want to use this blue. So you can really have a lot of fun playing around with the colors and the styling, fonts, everything that you want to do on your form using CSS.